Hey guys, I'm really excited to have the team leader for 12 Labors. He's been an incredible success in the competitive sport of CrossFit, and he's been generous enough to sit down for this fun little interview. So I have a lot of questions, and I'm really excited to, ask him, what makes a successful, person versus someone who wants to be successful and doesn't actually get there. So before I get started with the questions, do you want to introduce yourself, say anything more about you or the gym?
Sure. My name is Luke Espe. I am the co-owner of 12 Labors CrossFit. We have a gym by the airport, which is BWI. We have one in Annapolis, and the one that you're in now is Columbia. This is the one that kind of housed the competitive team for the past few years. It's a big brand that has more than one location, but everything competitive was always kind of run out of this location for the team that everybody saw at the games. And as you can see from before, it's kind of your normal hole-in-the-wall gym. It's not gigantic by any means. So that's I started training and doing some CrossFit.com workouts in like 2008, late 2008, early 2009. Walked into BWI. That was my first affiliate that I worked out at. And started training there, started coaching there, and then kind of rest is history. Opened up a gym in 2012, which is CrossFit Syndicate, and we rebranded everything to like the 12 Labors name to try to build a bigger brand behind what we were already doing. Right. So what we were doing, we thought was good. We thought it was special and was something different that the community needed. So we brought 3 gyms together and sort of developed one brand around them with multiple locations. So that's kind of how we got everything started.
Awesome. So my first question would be, you've been there, you've been consistently, placed high with your team. What is the difference between someone who's successful at something they set as a goal versus someone who isn't?
I guess you could take that. You could take that in two separate ways, right? The first is you have to have a solid team, right? So I think CrossFit does a really good job of testing the entire team aspect. You can't just have 2 or 3 studs and the rest of the people just be there to go through the motions. Everybody has to be solid in every piece of their game, right? And I think that's what made us successful was everybody held their weight, everybody trusted each other to work on weaknesses and change those weaknesses into strengths, or at least be adequate at them. And there was never anything that really rocked us as a team, right? There wasn't an event that always sort of crushed us, right? There's a couple times like a swim workout would get us, or a heavy lift workout would get us, but we would still at least be in the middle of the pack, right? And I think that's the trick in this sport of being successful. And then sometimes it's the luck of the draw. You can have a year where this is your first open, right? So
yes.
So imagine if you had a year where all 5 workouts were just wheelhouse workouts for you. All 5 workouts were 5 workouts that you were extremely good at, right? And you're like, man, here's my level of fitness or my placing. And then over the next year, you're in much better shape. You're in great shape. But the 5 workouts that come out are just all your weaknesses that never came out in the open last year, right? And that's just bad luck. And I think that happens to people that are competitive all the time. Like they have a good string of workouts that comes out for their team. And what we tried to do was make sure that no matter what the workouts were that came out, that we would still be solid. We were never worried about, I hope these movements don't come out or this comes out. Like it was nice when they came out and they were strengths of ours, but there was never anything that we looked at and said, man, this is going to absolutely destroy us. I think in this game of fitness, I think that's how you have to look at being successful in it. Is you cannot have holes in your game. You cannot play on strengths. You have to be so well rounded as a team that you're not leaving it up to the control of the event director. Right, you're leaving it up to how your team performs on game day, and not necessarily on what are they programming this year at regionals, right? And I think that's something that a lot of people miss. Teamwork's huge. Trust in your team's huge. You spend, for anybody out there that does this for a while, you spend a ton of time with your teammates. A ton of time. So I think you have to have super close relationships and friendships with these people that I don't think people understand how sick of each other you get over the course of a season. And if you're trying to do this for multiple seasons in a row, like it just has to be good communication with your team, and like still have fun and not take it so seriously that 6 months into the road everybody just implodes in a training session because the tension just keeps building. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so let me move the camera up a little bit to make sure the audio is good.
I can try to talk a little louder too, if that helps.
Yeah, so speaking of team dynamics, I think that's really important, and it's unique to the team sport versus the individual. So, you're against some of some titans like CrossFit Mayhem, Rich Froman's team, and you've been able to stick with them or keep up with them. What do you think is the big difference between an individual sport and team sport? And how do you actually be a good team versus a bad team?
Difference between individual and team. I would say that it's your mindset going into a workout, right? Like I spoke before about like the level of trust that you have in your teammates. And not only that, like I don't want to beat a dead horse with that, but like your mindset going into a competition day or a workout is always, how can I set up my teammates to thrive in this workout, right? So like, what am I doing to put them in a better scenario in this workout? It's not about, say your regionals or the games or whatever it is, like it's not about me looking good doing this piece of the workout, right? Like, hey guys, I'm really good at that. Like, let me do that because I'm going to look cool on camera doing that. It's more so, what do I need to do to put my other teammates and put the team in the best scenario to thrive or to win, right? And I think, having that selflessness and like just the idea of this is about the team, not about individuals. If everybody's on the same page with that, it kind of shakes itself out, right? And everybody is now in scenarios where it's a byproduct. You get to be able to do the things that you're good at and be highlighted in those things because your other teammates are doing the same thing. They're trying to put the team in the best scenario to win. And I think that's when people fall into that trap of like, Josh is really good at this or Kristen's really good at this, like just let her do that or let him do that. Like that's not how it is. It's like how do we develop a plan to make the best score possible for this team, right? And I think that brings out the best from your team, and that's if everybody's on the same page with that, it just works out way better in the end. Yeah.
So, in terms of consistency, that's something that's hard. I've seen many athletes do really well one year and then just kind of disappear the next year, but 12 Laborers has been generally pretty consistent. And different team members have come and gone, but you've still been able to find talent, and that's hard to do. I think there's thousands of teams out there on the nation who want to do that, but they can't. So my question is like, how have you been able to source that talent and stay relevant for so long?
Well, people get to see 6 people work out as a team, right? So they think that, you know, those 6 people, that's the team. When in reality, you know, we had, every year that we've ever done this, we've had multiple people outside of that team that are either working for a spot on that team or just being there to help the team get better, right? So like, let's say, you know, 2016, we get a lot of talk about 2016 because we got second, and you know, 6 people stood on the podium when in reality it should have been like 14 or 15 people.
Wow.
Right? So there's this huge group of people that we're constantly working out with, and it just happened that those 6 people that we stood on that podium with were the ones that, you know, we thought as a group were the team or the best 6 that pieced together in the grand scheme of things to be able to make that happen, right? But it could have been 4 or 5 different people that were switching out in and out of that team, right? So I don't know if it's necessarily, you know, seeking out talent or finding different people. It's just people come into that system that we already had sort of churning, and you know, they're trying to grab a spot on that team, and a lot of people worked hard, and that's probably the worst part of the season, is like announcing the team, because you have 12, 15 people shoot for a spot on that team that worked their ass off for the entire year, and it's just how it is. There has to be 6 people on that roster, right? And that's a tough spot, because you can always play the game of what ifs, and you don't know what the workouts are at the game. So, you know, let's say you cut somebody from the team and pick somebody else because as a group you think that's going to be your best chance, and it could be the workouts come out that the person you cut would have been an absolute boss in those scenarios. So that's tough, but I mean that's kind of how we've played it. It's just a big system, right? And everybody buys into that system and buys into the team, and that's how it's worked out so well for us. It's a bigger group than the people that, you know, everybody sees as the team.
Wow. In terms of workout intensity, how exactly do you go about your daily basis working out? Because, you know, you see the videos, the daily, weekly vlogs from other competitors where it seems like they're in the gym 7 hours a day. Like, how exactly do you do that without overtraining? And, you know, some of these people have full-time jobs.
Well, we had an interesting, and I'll keep using the team as an example, but we had, you know, pretty much everybody had a full-time job. Right? Everybody had a full-time job, so nobody was in the gym all day. Outside of a couple of people that were like CrossFit trainers or gym owners like myself, you know, most people had full-time jobs, so it was impossible to work out all day. Some days we would do doubles. You know, it would be an AM session of like metabolic conditioning, so like a long row or a run or a bike or a swim or some type of conditioning piece, and then the evening we'd have strength work and like your standard CrossFit stuff. It depends. It was more so about getting in what you could get in when you could get it in, and I think we may have taken a little bit different of an approach. Like we had a coach that programmed for us. Specifically, the females had their own programming and the men had their own program, and we tried to get in as much as we could. My schedule has been a little crazy the past few years, so I worked out with class a lot. Like I literally worked out in our classes, doing like the daily walk. And I think intensity trumps everything. You just have to, you know, make sure it's quality over quantity, and I really took that to heart, making sure that I had good sessions when I had them, and when I had time to get other stuff in, I did. But I wouldn't say it's about how much you get in. It's, you know, what are you putting into the time that you have. You don't have to have, you know, 6 hours of training time logged a day to be successful in this stuff. It just has to be done smart. So finding somebody that knows what they're doing and making sure that the programming is smart. you have to be in it. Like it has to be quality training time. I don't think it has to be a ton of time in the gym as long as it's done right.
Speaking of intensity and gym size, you hinted at this earlier, but from what I saw, this gym seems to be a pretty standard sized gym. Not a coliseum, but a standard smaller gym. So can you speak to preparing for all these, unexpected workouts that they might throw at you? For example, the obstacle course workouts, or that one workout with the huge red hammer and you have to hit the cinder block between your legs. How do you actually prepare for that? Do you have the equipment here, or is it just, do what you can?
Right. There's always, I don't think you can prepare for everything, right? Because who would have thought that there would have been a full-size obstacle course, or that we'd be jumping over bales of hay, or carrying people around on a stretcher? Like you can't prepare for every single thing that they're ever going to throw at you. But if you have good athletes on your team, like athletic people, you can get through a lot of that stuff. Some of the more specific examples, though, like we went down to the Naval Academy. We're close to the Naval Academy, and one of our teammates last year, Maddie, she was at the Naval Academy. So we got on base and we did their obstacle course. We did things like that. We made sure we did open water swims. We made sure that we did a lot of sled pushes, trail runs. Madison, Wisconsin is the home of Trek bikes. So like anytime something comes out like that where they put a picture of a bike, like we all went out mountain biking a couple times a week. Just making sure that you're this well-rounded athlete, right? There can't be anything, like we alluded to before, there just can't be anything that nobody's never done before, right? Like at least have some proficiency in a little bit of everything. And that's what we tried to do. I mean, there's plenty of times where we didn't have any experience in something we did, like some of the pieces to that obstacle course, like swinging from one log to the other and being able to land and balance on it. Like we would have never been able to guess that, but most people are in the same boat. So if you get enough stuff under your belt and enough training with that, I think you can be somewhat prepared, I guess. And just going out and having fun, like learning new sports, and like the mountain biking stuff was a huge blast for us. Like going out on trails, we have the path go really close, so going out and mountain biking that stuff, doing open water swims. A lot of us hated to swim before we started like training swimming, and it turned into something we really liked. So doing things like that, I think just getting outside and being able to like apply your fitness into like athletic things or like sports, I think that's going to prepare you a lot better than just constantly hitting, CrossFit workouts with CrossFit movements. Getting out and applying your fitness is a big piece to that. Like being able to take what you have in the gym or what you've been training in the gym and try to apply that to a new sport. I think that prepares you more than dropping 10 seconds off your Fran time or whatever that is. Yeah.
So a lot of like successful teams in other sports seem to have like a big emphasis on team dynamics and chanting and leadership or certain types of coaching styles. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like, do you do any chanting, or is there anything special to your team building that you do?
We don't do any chanting, but I'd say there's a lot of special aspects about every single team that we've had over the years, and they've all been very different. Every year, me and Kristen were the only two that were 2014, 15, 16, and 17. Like we were kind of the constant in there, and then every year there was two people that kind of it wasn't planned. It was just two people that came or gone from that team. Our women were always the studs. Like everybody knows that. I don't know if anybody says that enough, but like our women were probably the reason are the reason we were as good as we were. The men just
supported.
We just couldn't. We tried not to mess anything up, right? And we made sure that we held our own, and we tried to be as cool, calm, and collected as we could during things, and like keep level heads and try to give leadership and like make sure we had good game plans going in. But like for the men's side of things, like we were solid. We were all solid athletes, but we just couldn't bomb anything. Like we couldn't get rocked by anything and then just let our women go and just go win workouts, right? And I think that was probably a little different than some teams. Like Rich's team, for example, Mayhem, right? Their men were always, especially when Hobart was on the team in 16. So Matt, Hobart, and Froning were all just 3 studs on the men's side. Mm-hmm. And if it was an all men's workout, like good luck beating those guys in 95% of the workouts, right? Take that and flip that, and if it's our women, good luck trying to beat them, right? So like the men, we would just try to, be in the top third. We'd obviously try to win, but as long as we stayed in that top third and just let our women thrive, that really allowed our team to kind of stay in those consistent top rankings. They were studs. I would put our women's side of the field up against just about any team out there.
Wow.
Yeah. Our men were more athletes. We could run, we could push sleds, we could do weird stuff that, obstacle courses and things like that, but I wouldn't call us necessarily the best CrossFitters on the planet. We were just athletic people. And our women were just absolute CrossFit slugs. So if there's a CrossFit workout that came out, like, no chance. Good luck.
What do you think about like kind of like an all-star team where they just select like the top individual studs from every single, all across the world, and combine them into one team? Do you think that would work well, or it wouldn't, because the team, it's not just about skill, but team dynamic and how they mesh together?
I'm interested to see how that works this year with 4 people instead of 6. Mm-hmm. Right? So it used to always be 6 people rosters. 4 people, I don't know. We'll see how that goes in 3 or 4 weeks when the regionals start, right? But in the past, I think 6 people, and again with how they program these things, there was so much built off of not how in shape you were. Obviously, we tested fitness and tested all these things, but there was always a level of teamwork and communication, right? So being able to communicate with 5 other people is a hard task. Doing that while your heart rate is elevated is even harder, right? So like just being able to communicate with 5 people and get something done is tough. Going into something where there's high stress, people are breathing heavy, one person's dying a little bit. Like, what do you do on the fly? Because none of the game plans ever work. You can go into the game plan, but it always goes out the window 5 minutes into a workout, and you have to work on the fly and communicate. I think that's why teams are as good as they are, and that's why a lot of those teams, you see them over and over and over every year, and that's because they've had that experience to be able to apply that communication and that teamwork over and over and over. The superstar teams, I've seen it work and I've seen it not work. Like in 16, there was a couple of teams that were, all 6 of them were absolute studs. And some of those teams didn't work at all. They didn't get past the regional level. And then some of those teams were in the top 5 of the game. So it's worked, but I still think that they have to train together for a long time. They have to trust each other. Like that communication piece is everything. Like going into a workout and thinking that you're just going to get by on athletic ability on the team side of things, it's just unrealistic. It doesn't happen. But then again, the 4-person thing might be different. You're cutting 2 people out of the equation. It might be easier to communicate and kind of work from there. But the 6-person thing was all teamwork. All teamwork.
So when I think of team events, one comes to mind specifically, and that's the one where there's hot sun coming down at you, and you have that long worm, and you're just doing squats, and you're moving to the next part of this football field, and repeating until you get to the end. And when I saw that, my initial thought was like, if I was in that situation, and it's like the world stage, like how do you actually mentally motivate your team to succeed? Like what are you saying? Are you chanting or shouting something to coordinate the movements, or is it just like complete chaos? Like just keep going.
Anytime there was a worm involved, there was always a cadence, and so there was always a cadence being. I usually had the cadence. So if it was, let's take the squat example, I would give the down command for every rep. There was a couple workouts out there where I was the one, and there's always somebody that dies on the worm. Just disclaimer: anybody that does worm workouts at a high level, whenever you're getting smoked, there's always one person dies before anybody else, and it's different every single time. But as soon as that person starts to go down, the other people get more work, right? So you either put that person in the light bag, or you put them in the middle, or you switch positions on the bag, whatever it is. And as soon as that person goes, the other people start getting more work, and then they get rocked. So like, there's always one person that gets rocked first. And at Murph, in 16, that was me. And I was the one that was supposed to be calling the squats. So I was supposed to be calling the down commands. I think it just comes back to that trust in your team. I don't know if at that level, I don't think you need to motivate anybody. Like, I don't need to motivate, Kristen or Maddie or Allie, anybody to move anymore, right? Like they're there, right? Like they've put in the work, they're there. They don't need motivated. They just need, someone to lead, and someone to call, and someone to organize, right? And that changes throughout the workout, right? It might be me for the first 25 squats, and then I hit a brick wall. I mean, I was on a different planet, dude. That was by far the worst I've ever felt in the workout.
That worm squat?
Yes. And
that's why I brought it up. It seemed like
it was awful. Yeah. Awful. That burst, awful. But when I went down, like, Maddie started calling squats, and then Kristen started calling squats, and then Teresa started calling them, and I don't think Josh called anything. He was in the hurt locker right next to me. We were trying everything, but it's about not panicking, and just the next person in line picks it up, and we continue to go. Right? Like it has to be that way on that stage. Like, if you're motivating one of your teammates to be able to do something, like, I don't know why you're there. Like that sounds kind of harsh, but like, if you're at that stage, and you're talking about the world stage here, like, you should not need motivated to keep going, right? Like you're there, you put in the work, like, you know what it takes to get there, obviously, because you got there. I don't think there needs to be any motivation. I'm not giving somebody on my team a motivational speech halfway through a workout, because I'm in just as bad of a place as they are, like, if not worse. So it's more so about just, communicating when I'm starting to die, like, hey guys, I'm getting smoked, like, who's next in line to take the cadence, right? And somebody hops in and goes, and I go back to my place, and I get the easier bag for a little bit. And it's about, like we talked about the first time, it's about setting up your team to get the best result, right? So I knew that I was slowing down, and I wasn't going to be able to hold the cadence, and I wasn't going to be able to hold up with people. If that means, swallowing my pride a little bit and going back to the light bag for a little bit, so be it. If that's what it takes. But everybody has to be on that same page to communicate those things, and I think that's why we did as well as we did for a lot of those things, because nobody was afraid to step up whenever their time came to step up, and there was never anybody that was, that cared about stepping down whenever they needed to step down too, if it was better for the team.
When you think about like the mental side of things, many people say that when you get to that level, it's the mental part is what separates, you, not the physical from everyone else. Can you talk a little bit about how true that is, and how exactly would you train the mental side?
I'd agree. It's a lot. It's a mental game. It's a mental game, and it's a long. Touched on this a little bit earlier. It's a long season. Right? By the time you get to the games or to regionals, like you're mentally a little fatigued already. You've spent a lot of time with these people. Regionals is a little bit different, so I'll start with the games. So like if you're at the games, it's a little, I don't want to say easier, but different mentally. Like you're there, right? And there's a ton of workouts. So if you do bad on a workout, you just have to have a short mentality, forget about it, and like get everybody back on the same page and get back into it. Something happens in one workout, like there's no stage to go to past that. So like, what can you do? You just have to forget about it and get on to the next one. Regionals is probably the most stressful weekend by far. You have 6 workouts, 2 a day. If you mess up one bad, you're probably not going to go to the games. There's a chance that you could pull a couple of really strong workouts out, but if you drop a workout really hard, the chances of getting in that top 5 are very difficult. Right? So like the stakes are much higher, and there's another place to go. You're trying to go to the CrossFit. You're trying to go to the next stage. That's a tough one. I've never had a regionals that wasn't just a complete mess of stress. I think it's keeping people level-headed and making sure everybody understands their job, and things are going to go wrong, and if they do, like, who's ready? Like, what's your backup plan? What's going on next? Who's picking up the slack? What's the next step? You can never think about, oh well, that's that, and that's it. We're done. Like you have to have these backup plans and have to have everybody ready to pick up their teammates when things go wrong. But that mental game's tough, and I wish there was something that you could do to prepare for that, but I think experience really wins in that scenario. It's unexplainable, and you could go in feeling super confident, and like in 2015, we went in feeling really good. We came off of good games here in 2014. We felt like we had a stronger team in 2015. We had a good open. We roll in, first workout, win the first workout. At the end of the workout, Teresa's like, something's wrong, something's seriously wrong with my back. And like, that whole weekend was an absolute fight because Teresa couldn't do anything. Her back she like slipped the disc in her back. She couldn't snatch, she couldn't do half the workouts. So like our 2 women were pretty much 2 against 3 the whole weekend. So it doesn't matter I guess my point is, it doesn't matter how confident you are going in, something's going to happen that's wrong, and how people deal with that adversity is what separates good from great teams. Right? Understanding that something goes wrong, dealing with it, and getting on with it, and making a fix quickly, I guess is really where the mental strength comes in. And again, that happens with experience. You just have to go to experience that stuff.
In that case, for that situation, did you use your system to switch out different women, or did you just try and support those? You can't. So as soon as you have an 8-person roster, 6 teammates, 2 alternates. As soon as you check in, day 1, you check in with your 6 people that are your starters, I guess. That's who you have to finish the weekend with. So if somebody gets hurt, whatever it is, that's your 6. You have to deal with them. If you happen to make it to the next stage, you can switch those 6 out before the games if you wanted to from your 2 alternates. But whatever you start with, no matter if it's regionals or the games, you have to finish with those 6. So Teresa did the best she could, and she was a trooper. Crushed the things that she could do, but again,
relied on the rest of the team. And we did what we could to try and make that happen, and it just worked out.
Wow. Can you tell us about your story, about the story of the team starting out? Like, was this just something where no one was initially really trying to compete or didn't have any expectations, and then once you got to that stage and you looked around and you were on the world stage, did that some unexpected stress affect you negatively, or it was just like, hey, we're here, we can't believe we made it, we had fun, and it kind of helped in that way?
Yeah, I did a couple of regionals before 2014, so 2009, 10, 11, did some regional level competition, and then opened up a gym in 2012, so like 2013 was just a mess. In 2014, we finally got 6 people together that we felt was a strong team. And we made regionals. We didn't expect to make it to the games. We didn't really think about any of those things. We were just going to go and give it our best shot. We ended up making the games. That was a big morale boost for everybody, I think. And then whenever we got to the games, we did well in a few workouts, and I think it was like the second day that we were there. We're like, yo, we deserve to be here. Like, this isn't a fluke thing. So first time going, I think we finished 9th that year. Like, the idea of like the feeling of deserving to be in a group of people and not being, like these people are out of our league or whatever it was. There was never that feeling, and kudos to the team for that. Like, we felt like we deserved to be there, and I think that really, 2014 set the tone for the next 3 years. Like, we never came out and was like, those guys are good, like they're unbeatable. Like, we were always just like, we can beat them. We can beat them, we can beat them, and that set the tone, and I think lit a fire for the next few years. And that core group of people stayed around, whether they were on the roster or not. Like, they stayed around and stuck with that, and helped mold the team into what it was over the years.
All right, final wrap-up questions.
Okay.
So, for anyone out there who wants to get competitive, what are your top 3 or top 5 tips you have?
Top 5 tips to be competitive.
Yes.
In CrossFit. I'd find a couple training partners. Find a couple of training partners that are, whether you're planning on like doing team CrossFit or individual CrossFit, you have to find people to work out with. It's very doable by yourself, and a lot of people do that. Me personally, it's not as fun. It's not nearly as fun going at this thing by yourself. And there's going to be days every single week that you're training by yourself, but if you have like-minded, goal-oriented people around you that give you a little bit of accountability, I think that's a much better scenario to be in, right? And then the second one off of that is, like, have fun with it. You see too many people that just want to come in and like check the check marks. Yep, did that, that's good. Like have fun with it. Like, if you don't feel great that day, and the workout isn't your thing, like whatever it is, like hop into a class and remember, I think everybody started with class fitness, right? Everybody started with group CrossFit classes. Like, don't let that go away. And some people that watch this probably laugh because I'm like a huge stickler on that. I always talk about group CrossFit classes, and like once people get to the competitive area, they never do classes again. And it just drives me crazy. Like, remember where you came from and do those classes. Like, going into those classes and having fun and being in a group and being surrounded by that intensity, I think it keeps you motivated and it keeps you in the game. That's a big piece to it. I guess once you get to a certain point with it, you have to. It's a good idea to have a coach. I would definitely get a coach, whether it's doing personal programming for you or just like somebody to talk to. It's a stressful sport, and having somebody to just to listen. Mike Lee from OPEX was my coach this past year, and Ryan's been a coach for me in the past, and it's much more than just somebody handing you programming, being like, hey, here's your workout for the day or whatever it is. Like, it's just having somebody to talk through and how you're feeling, and how you're dealing with the stress and what it's doing to your personal life outside of the gym, because all those things take a hit. Right? If you're spending 6 days a week, 3 hours a day at the gym, it's not 7 hours like we were talking about before, but let's say 3 or 4 hours a day, and you're always stressed out, you're tired, and you're not going out to eat with your friends because you're trying to keep your nutrition right. Like, that stuff takes its toll. And having a coach that can kind of talk through those things, or at least just listen to you, makes a big difference. Big difference. Honestly, I guess my last one would be go have fun outside of the gym too. Don't be caught just inside the walls the whole time, right? So that's always helped us tremendously, is when you can feel the tension start to rise during the season, like getting out, and you can still go do fitness in other ways, right? Like going for a trail run, or going out and playing around a golf, or whatever it is. Like get outside and still work on your fitness, but it doesn't have to be inside the gym. Like go do something. Consistency in that is much better than just constantly getting rocked over the course of how much time just being in the gym all the time. Like, nobody can do that. You only last so long, and there's so many. Being in this as long as I have, like, seeing teams or individuals just implode during the season and never make it back the next year, like that. I think that could be really helped or minimized if they just remember to have fun with it and remember why they're doing it in the first place. Being able to express that fitness and being able to, I guess, be an ambassador to the sport of CrossFit, and like going out and applying it, and that's a big piece for me, and I think that would help a lot of people, and especially with longevity in the game.
All right, what about your top tips for someone who's not looking to be competitive? They're looking just to look good naked and stay fit. And it's funny how these things, they kind of go hand in hand, right? There's some things that I think people have to, for the competitive side, they have to take care of, and that's more than your everyday fitness goer. But again, people just coming in for fitness, like your standard things, take care of your nutrition. It's going to make the biggest change with how you look. And a lot of people, let's face it, a lot of people come into the gym for aesthetic goals. Right? Those they evolve into performance-based goals. Like, once they understand what they're doing, like pull-ups, or a Murph time, or I want to back squat this, or whatever. Like, it evolves into those things over time. But the reason they walk in the door the first time is usually aesthetic goals. Hey, I want to lose some weight. I want to look better naked, or whatever it is. They're usually aesthetic goals. Take care of your nutrition. Find a place that has good coaches that you can connect with on a personal level. It's not just coming in, doing the warm up, doing the workout, and leaving. Like, I think CrossFit, the reason a lot of it works is like the intimate relationship that you have with the gym itself. Right? Like, that's a very
that's a very strong piece to it, and I take that very seriously, and all of our coaches do, and I'm sure all the gyms around do, is being able to kind of connect with that person on a pretty strong level, and being able to get past. You're fine. Being able to think of it outside of an hour a day. Right? Being able to connect with that person solid, take care of your nutrition, make sure you have fun with it, and, listen to your body. I think too many people try to, they look on social media, Instagram, whatever it is, and think that they should be doing these things, or Rich Froening's doing this, I should be doing that, and it's not. These guys they're not going after the same things as the everyday fitness goer, right? Like they're just trying to win medals. Right? The competitive world, you're trying to win. It's not necessarily the healthiest thing to do. You don't need to go be in the gym 4 hours a day to look better. That's the competitive side of the house, right? And I don't think enough people realize that is class workouts. Work out in class, you fix your nutrition, you're going to be fine. And you're going to reach the goals that you need to. Those would be my tips for the everyday fitness goer.
And injury prevention too, because CrossFit does seem to get more injuries than most sports. So is there anything around that you want to say?
I would look at, this is stuff we do with our clients, I would look at, again, finding that coach that can talk to you on a personal level and figuring out goals and what you want to do. There's some people that there's no reason that they need to be able to overhead squat. Right? Like if you're coming in to be an everyday, you want to look better, you want to drop some weight, you want to feel better, you want to perform better, things like that. Like maybe your shoulder is not. Maybe you're in your mid-40s and you banged up your shoulder in high school, and it's not meant to overhead squat, right? Like finding a coach that can talk through that and see like what the risk to reward is. Like being able to overhead squat might not be for you. Having somebody that can tell you that, and it's not just overhead squat. There's obviously multiple things, but having somebody that can tell you that and you can respect that answer and you guys can talk through what that means. Maybe kipping pull-ups aren't for you. Maybe we're going to do strict work all the time, or whatever those things mean. Like that needs to be figured out. And I think people push movements that the risk to reward doesn't make sense or line up with what their goals really are. Right. So having somebody talk through those with you is a big deal.
All right, that's it. Do you want to plug anything before we?
No, I'm good, man. 12 Laborers CrossFit. If you guys ever want to come see us, you can find us on the internet. Quick Google search. But other than that, appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much. I learned a lot too.